Ho, and we're live. It is the Powerbotch Podcast, and we are your hosts. My name is John, and I am joined by Freed, the Fred one. Hello, Freed. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing, sir? You keeping well?
Oh, I've been fantastic. How have you been, John?
It's been a week. But I think I say that all the time. It's been a week. It's been a hot day today, never mind a week.
But how about that? We start with a bang and talk about Dynamite.
We can do that there. We'll switch over to Dynamite. I have the wrong current topic up because I am so professional right now. Isn't that great? Where is my... There we go. Bam. With the AEW, we're going to start, as always, guys, with the AEW review. But we're going to try and keep this condensed this week. We went through literally... a stupid amount of time last week, just talking about 2 hours because we were excited about Dynamite last week. We're going to try and keep it condensed though. So I'm going to let my wonderful co-host speak here, Fareed. If you want to take us through the first match, go for it.
Oh yeah. First match, we have a lumberjack match. Big Wardlow versus big Luchasaurus. Let me tell you, both those guys, athletic girth to the maximum. Big guys, athletic, girthy guys. That's what they are.
So that's what happened. Athletic girth. That's been the big thing since last week. I have not been able to get away from that phrase for one reason or another. I've been not be able to get away from that phrase. All that athletic girth on show.
It's a great spot fest of a match. Like for example, Wardlow jumps into Luchasaurus and does this awesome Hurricane Rana. And Luchasaurus, what does he do? He does a C4, a Spanish fly. It's kind of amazing when wrestlers of this size do those moves.
I saw that their spot, and I was like, how the hell did a 6 foot 7, 6'8" Goliath do a Spanish fly? And we're not talking like a Spanish fly off the top of a turnbuckle. We're talking a Spanish fly from a standing position, middle of the damn ring. What the fuck?
Not just standing, Wardlow came charging in at Luchasaurus and he did the Spanish fly from that position.
I wonder if that momentum was actually the thing that managed to carry them. Big thing I noticed though, it was a lumberjack match, and you know what? Got to give it the commentary. They explained where a lumberjack match comes from. Yeah. I think that's the first time in any sort of live wrestling where we've seen a lumberjack match that the actual commentary have had the decency to tell people where it's from. Do you want to tell people where it comes from, Freed?
Lumberjacks used to fight and their friends circled them so nobody could run away.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It was like if you had a dispute with your fellow lumberjack, they would encircle and they would not let you run away, and you should fight out or get your grievances out in that circle at that given time, and you weren't allowed to leave the circle until you perfectly and adequately solved the situation.
Yeah, although I have to question one, why was this a lumberjack match? Wardlow isn't really keen on running away, and second, it wasn't a very effective lumberjack match because only 2 sides of the ring were surrounded by lumberjacks, or surrounded is the wrong word. The ring wasn't surrounded at all. That's the problem.
Well, I think my biggest problem was yes, it wasn't surrounded. It's it pretty much was just if you took both of the crowd's halves and just put the other side of the barrier, but also the face side. Luchasaurus is technically more friendlier side. Didn't really try to hit Wardlow, where you think there would be a little bit of, backup there. They were like, I'm not touching him. Only one that went for him was Marco Stunt, who was stopped by Jungle Boy.
John, you forgot about Brandon Cutler.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Brandon Cutler did.
Let's get through this, because the big man fight over to the ramp, and Brandon Cutler out of nowhere jumps Wardlow. He just tosses him casually into the crowd of people, into the lumberjacks. And then Marco Stunt jumps onto Wardlow as well. And the commentators explain it's because he wants to get them back into the ring. Big heart Marco Stunt has. Wardlow just gorilla presses him and just yeets him into the crowd.
Just like it was reminiscent of remember when remember when Big Sexy got Mysterio and just lawn darted him into the side of the trailer? It's like just fucking Wardlow just lawn darts Marco right into this crowd. It's just like, and fuck off.
He got so much distance. It was incredible.
I mean, that is a sizable athletic girth holding a lad of like medium small girth, you know. I think you know the girth ratio is in the favor of Mr. Wardlow. I would at least say is in the favor of Mr. Wardlow.
You could say that, yes.
I mean, that's just my professional opinion. You know, my professional opinion as a random smark. But weird match in all. I see what.
Come on, because Luchasaurus had to top that. Okay.
I was gonna get to that there.
Please go ahead, by all means.
Weird match, but I understand why they had the lumberjacks was because of that segment and stunt right off the top of the ramp. Like, just we see a tail whip just annihilate Wardlow, and then it's just this whole sort of like, just kind of like a fallback, like you'd see in like a movie, like in a movie stunt thing, and he just decimates everyone, right? He falls down, takes down the whole crowd, but Luchasaurus is not good, just not enough. He's been watching Airborne, he's been watching his WWE from Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne were on the scene. He's like, I'm just going to do a shooting star press off the top of this thing, and just channels his inner Airborne and just annihilates the bottom row again. Just as they get stand up from a stagger, they're getting to look up. Next thing you know, there is a 6'7" Mesozoic era dinosaur flying at them in majestic symphony of flying limbs. It was wonderful, and I couldn't believe it.
Let me tell you something. It wasn't a meteorite that killed the dinosaurs. It was Luchasaurus when he jumped off that ramp.
I heard about that there. It's like the one thing. It's like, I think I was speaking to, who was it? I heard someone coming up with a name for that there, but I couldn't remember what it was called. Was it yourself that said that name? I can't remember.
I didn't name it.
Someone came up with a great name, and it was alluding to the, you know, obviously the cataclysm that killed the dinosaurs. Although if you talk to some people, they'll tell you it's the Ice Age.
Doesn't if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he already have a move called the Extinction Event or something like that? His double team move with Jungle Jack Perry.
Jungle Jack Perry. I think it might be. I can't remember because like this is the problem I have is that they don't do enough tagged wrestling by just the two of them and ever win for us to really see them pull it off. That's kind of like my one criticism of the team is that they never bloody win in doubles. I mean, we did see some dark matches this week, and they won, I believe, a trio match, but it wasn't really.
They're getting better at winning. We have to say, we have to give them that.
It makes me wonder: is it getting better at winning when you do it on dark, though?
It's the quality of the opponents, right?
Yeah, it's Jobber Nation.
Yeah,
It's not great, but all in all, great match. I thought it was again, Dynamite always good. They're like WCW. They always had like these really hot openers. They don't mess around. They always have like a really good sort of high octane match to kind of get the crowd going, even though the crowd's not there. But you know what I mean. They still getting the audience kind of into the mood of some great high octane action. But then we follow up with our next segment, which is the Taz breakdown for Brian Cage.
Oh, you just jumped right over the closing angle of the match.
Oh yes, I forgot about it. You're right. My apologies. The MJF and Wardlow scuffle with them. My apologies. Yeah. You want to enlighten us on that one?
Well, let's just tell the viewers that that Wardlow won after a kick to the dinosaur balls, and then he does the F10 for the 1-2-3, and then big brawl breaks out between between Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, Jungle Boy, and Wardlow and MJF, and all the lumberjacks get into the ring as well, try to break up the fight, and that sets up a new match we got for Fyter Fest: MJF and Wardlow versus Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy.
which is going to be interesting in the sense that MJF still hasn't had a loss yet on both
Yeah,
Dynamite and Dark, so there's something to be said for that.
yeah.
But I do have fears. I have fears they're taking another loss. I have a fear that the Jurassic Express are taking another loss, and I don't want that.
I mean, Wardlow could take the loss technically.
Yeah, he could. I know.
MJF lost in a Fatal 4-Way match last year.
True. Here's the thing. I see why they're doing it. Like the angle between Jungle Boy and MJF is white hot. Like people are calling it this generation's Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. I get it. I get it. Right. You want to keep that simmering over to when they can have a good confrontation in front of an actual live crowd. I just hope they don't take the shine off these two guys too early. You know, I want to make sure. Like that's my one fear. Is that you put these guys in a losing situation, you take the shine off them, and you put them. If you put them in a schmoss, then it's just a weak match at that point because people are just going to be up. People are going to be upset about the actual outcome because it was a non-finish outcome. You know, so it's hard to win in any angle at that point. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I get that.
We do have the Taz segment though, as I mentioned earlier. Which is interesting because the Taz segment was very reminiscent of stuff he was doing for Hager and did he do for Moxley, I believe, or did he do one for Cody? He done like a breakdown of their finishing moves. I think they done one for Cody.
Could be. I don't remember for whom he did them, but he did a couple of them actually. I think he did one for Darby Allin as well.
Yeah,
and that was leading into this whole offering his services as a manager,
right,
which Darby rejected.
Because we had that there, and then we had the Hager one, which really kind of sold me on Hager's move. Because when we saw Hager do the move to Dustin at Revolution, I wasn't sold on it as a move. But then after like the next week when Taz walked me through what that move does, I was like, okay, no, that's a move. That's a really awful move to be put in. I could see why that's a devastating move now. So like Taz really good at sort of just like breaking down these moves and their minutiae and what they do to your body and the elements of how the havoc is wreaked for these moves.
Yep.
He does one for Brian Cage, which is which goes in sort of like the blood flow into your brain and then the sudden drilling on the head and really talks about the drill claw in full, but there's still a little bit of that anger and animosity from Moxley in there as well. So it's like he's doing a segment, but there's an undertone of hate in there as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. It was a little bit less analytical as the other ones he did. You could hear that there's a little bit of threat there. He's warning the listeners of how dangerous this is. He doesn't just explain it. He makes it blatantly clear this man is dangerous.
Which is why it was kind of shocking because usually you expect these great sort of like. Cause I like the science behind it. Like with the Jake Hager one, the science behind it is what kind of drags me in a little bit, like that kind of pulls me in. I'm like, yep, okay, now I understand this better. This is why you're good at commentating, because you break this down for a way that a non-wrestling person like myself, I've never been in the ring, never had any sort of training or anything, so I'm just a fan like anyone else. But having someone who's been in the ring and has that experience and just kind of pulling apart those little like threads that just and showing you what those mean in the overall picture is so important, because again, it's an aid to help suspend disbelief. You know, you believe the move more.
I hope he keeps doing those vignettes for other wrestlers as well. He's really good at it.
It's a shame. It's a shame he's on Dark, because he's actually a brilliant commentator as well. And this is not like a bash on any of the commentators we have on Dynamite. Like they've all got their charms. Like Tony Schiavone's kind of great for your kind of fall guy, kind of like your bit of your comedy angles. Excalibur is great at analytical breakdowns and sort of like a move encyclopedia. And then JR is there for, it's kind of like the voice of wrestling. It's kind of like, he gives things merit. even if he does sometimes accidentally bury the fucking product that he works for. But there's merit to overall. There is merit to his involvement, and it's just a shame that they have 4 amazing commentators, and one of them doesn't get maybe as much time as to shine that he could if he was in that situation.
But in fact, they have 5 amazing commentators because Chris Jericho will do night 1 at Fighter Fest.
I forgot about Chris Jericho's stint in commentary. Yeah, he's great because he's irrational. He's great because he's irrational.
Yeah.
It's just his stuff with like Nyla, where it's like, I don't even look at her backstage.
Speaking of which, we should probably move on to the next segment involving Britt Baker.
Yes, we had Britt Baker get involved again with Mr. Schiavone, because when is she not getting involved with Mr. Schiavone?
No longer on friendship timeout.
What? They're not on friendship timeout anymore. Yeah. I think she sent up a note. Was this where she sent up a note and demanded to know why Luchasaurus's tongue was green?
Yeah.
I was watching that there. I was like, I get it. That plays into the whole like Dr. Tooth aspect, right? I was just getting like halitosis and stuff. She's now got a kind of a Pope mobile, I want to call it.
Yeah.
It's like a Pope mobile, like a full perspex windows to the whole 9 yards. She has like a security person now with like an Adam Page-esque style bandana on, which I thought was interesting. And then she's got Reba as well there. So she's got enhanced security, but she's also got a Pope mobile now. And I think the only thing that came to mind of that there was the comments in regards to Luchasaurus's mouth. Was there anything else I missed on that one, or anything I?
She keeps harping a bit on about last week how Tony let her get kidnapped, how Tony let her get thrown into a dumpster, and she was in that dumpster in fact for 9 or 10 hours.
An increase on the 6 prior noted.
It will be weeks. Eventually, she will have spent weeks in that dumpster. I'll tell you.
No.
I hope she does that. I hope she runs with it.
Just the incremental hike. It's like, it was 2 days. It was 2 weeks. and I was in a dumpster in Diamond for 2 weeks. That leads to Mr. Taz.
Yeah, that leads us to Hikaru Shida versus Red Velvet. And Hikaru Shida comes out and she sees Penelope Ford in the crowd standing there, goes right for Ford, gets into her face, and Ford just slaps her across the face. Referee Paul Turner goes to get Shida, just gets her in the ring, and she doesn't even wait for the bell, just tiny Falcon Arrow 1, 2, 3, and as soon as the ref's hand hits the mat for the 3 count, she's back out there in the face of Penelope Ford, just beats her up, even knocks out Kip Sabian, and heel turn of Hikaru Shida, unfortunately, because she breaks Kip Sabian's shades.
I was going to ask about that. How did you feel about your boy's shades being broke? On a personal level?
I'm heartbroken. I know Hikaru Shida was a person I kind of looked up to. I saw her as a role model, and to see her commit an act of such, I don't know how you put it, atrocity,
just a vandalism.
It's almost a war crime, I want to say. It's the English language has over 1 million words, but I don't think there are any words that can adequately describe how vile her act of destroying the sunglasses was. Did this answer your question?
so you felt pain on a personal level, and I see.
I think not on a personal level, more on a human level. You know, there's something called human decency, and
You're telling me Hikaru Shida's lacking human decency because she broke shades? Is that where you're going with this?
Maybe I was getting there. I didn't know I was going there when I started this, but apparently I went there.
It's like, I didn't know this was a war crime or an atrocity that should have been outruled by the Geneva Convention, but now it is. But no, that was a squash match. That was a surprising squash match, especially considering, um, you know, the way they kind of like hyped up her in action all week as well, like on social media and other places as well. It's like Hikaru Shida's in action. You're like, okay, cool. So we're gonna get like a pretty decent women's match, and then no, we don't. But again, I understand as much as I don't like it. There's no one like there's like no one for her to fight at the minute. Like we've got two out on injury. The one person she is fighting is for the belt next week because this is the go home for Fighter Fest. So there's no one for her to fight this week. Realistically, other than a jobber. And like half the other talents like across the world, like they're
Yeah.
the AEW's women roster is incredibly great and diverse and well spread out across the world. That's not great when you're in a pandemic. That is not great when you're in a pandemic.
Unfortunately true, yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but I understand.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
We got the press conference concerning the match between Cody and Jake Hager for the TNT title. And I actually loved this segment because AEW always wanted to be more sports-like, like your MMA and your boxing. Before a big title match, you have these kind of conferences, and they treated it like a legit press conference, right? Although you see Dustin Rhodes in a suit, he's suited up, still got his face paint on. that was beautiful.
You know what? It's shades of. If you ever watched New Japan, it's shades of New Japan. New Japan do the same thing, especially before some of their bigger ones. So for the likes of before Dominion and the likes of before Wrestle Kingdom and whatnot, they do press conferences with their talent, and they're all suited up and stuff. And it used to be quite funny when you did watch them because much like Dustin, as you mentioned, they're like suit looking incredibly dapper but face paint. You used to have Justin Thunder Liger do the same thing. Suit, incredibly dapper, mask. and like Justin Thunder Liger's mask was never like subtle. You had like a fin out here and a fin out here and a fin out there. The man's basically a walking Power Ranger. So he has like his walking Power Ranger mask on, and it's one of those situations where like super dapper, but then he's like he's in that mask, so you got to see the shades of that there.
A little detail I think most people didn't pick up on. One of the reporters that gets to ask a question is Matt Brock from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and he is a fictitious reporter. Pro Wrestling Illustrated features articles of his, but other writers invented him, and he's this Hunter S. Thompson kind of guy. Right. And I love that they put in this really nerdy joke nobody will ever get.
But that is AEW though. They appeal to the smarks like that. They do. I did kind of feel like it was a big work because they're announcing these questions from actual established media outlets for wrestling, but they were softball as all hell because they're just pretty much leading up to. It's like how do you think you're going to beat Jake Hager come Fighter Fest, Cody? Real kind of like it's like if I had like a primary school child ask a wrestler a question before an upcoming match, but they serve their purposes because Arn Anderson cut a great promo on Jake Hager, Cody done a Cody,
real passionate promo.
Yeah, which is it's a Cody special, right? It's like,
oh yeah,
Cody has this wonderful delivery and cadence, and there's a bit of a formula to it, but it's a formula I appreciate. Cody's formula is kind of like, you'll reminisce at first. He has like a gentle, slightly childlike demeanor to his tone because that kind of lures you in and you listen, you kind of focus a little bit more, and then the fire builds, and then like a feckin' dragon on top of a treasure mine with a hobbit in front of him, he just spews fire. And like it's a formula he does every time, but it's a formula that works because that is quintessential Cody. but something did stand out to me a little bit about it.
Oh yeah,
Shades of Jim Cornette.
shades of Jim Cornette from Cody.
Yeah. Specifically, one line stood out to me. I don't like cosplay wrestling. That is something I would hear from Mr. Cornette.
Oh yeah, he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I thought that was an interesting and really strange sort of turn of play from Cody. Reason why I wanted to highlight is that we watched. I don't know about yourself, but have you ever seen Cody talk about All In, the original All In?
Yeah, I have.
One of the big things then you'll probably notice, like myself, is that with All In, he always talked about All In as like a smorgasbord of wrestling. You have a bit of wrestling for everyone. It wasn't like it was one thing. You had something for everyone, and he's quite proud of that.
Mhm.
But then he says something that would insinuate he didn't like some of that.
I think I will talk about this at a later point of this show because it connects with some little details I have picked up on, other stuff as well.
Okay. I'll leave you to that there. Do you want to talk what happens next?
Yeah, Jake Hager finally shows up because that was the storyline. Jake Hager wasn't there. He's too cool for school. If you want to call it that. I mean, I just did. Okay, he finally shows up. Great heel that he is, and he's there with his wife, and he doesn't even let people ask him questions. He just calls for a photographer to do the posing, and he and Cody pose, and then he puts his face under Cody's chin, and Cody just slaps it away.
Mm.
And the people around him tell him to calm down, and Cody's all right, I'm calm. Again, it felt very much like you see before a boxing match, before an MMA match, stuff like that happens, and then Jake Hager's wife just throws her water into his face. What a heel! Jake Hager's wife is really effective.
It's because his wife is just as volatile as the Inner Circle. Like it really is the Inner Circle wife, isn't it? Like I could imagine at some point, like maybe like an off. You know, you have the Bellas. Imagine like a Bellas format, but for like Inner Circle wives, like Jake Hager's wife and Jericho's wife.
And they're all just really girls, like the dark timeline of Sex and the City.
Dark timeline of Sex and the City. Oh god. I think I may have a delivery coming up. If you want to handle some of our, if you want to talk to some of our people or people in chat, is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Get your delivery. Go get them, boy. Get them. Yo, what up, Dean Smiley? Justin, good to see you here. AEW will sign Tesla. Their women division could definitely use an established star. They could use a great heel right now, but I don't think that AEW will sign her right now. Too much heat on her. And Cody is amazing on the mic. Yes, he is. My favorite Cody promo is still after his match with Dustin, when he got all emotional. It was probably an awesome promo because it was real. Such a good promo. Cody is one of the best babyface right now in wrestling. He's such a good babyface that even I don't like babyfaces in wrestling. I find them bony, but Cody got to me. That's how good a babyface he is.
And I'm back, guys. Apologies about that there. We'll have no more interruptions, don't worry.
Beautiful. So let's talk about Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela at a gas station.
That was weird. Vignette kind of coming off the back of last week's one where they established that Joey's out on his luck, kind of down on his luck. All kind of stemming from, you can theoretically call it from when essentially, and this is me purely speculating, when Penelope left him. Because there's a weird real life dichotomy there where Penelope did leave him, did hook up with Kip in real life, and now she and her, him and her are now an actual team together. Or well, they're a unit together.
Yeah.
And Joey has went down on Dynamite, where Kip has theoretically went up.
Yeah.
I
mean, he talked about his motivation in a promo recently. He said he had such big hopes coming to AEW. He thought he would become the next star. But all he did since coming to AEW is lose, miss out on opportunity after opportunity. And I think that's why he's down in storyline. I think he got the Penelope Ford thing out of his system at the beginning of Dynamite.
So I do have some beliefs that he also at one point talked about wanting to do more indie dates before the pandemic because he wasn't happy with the amount of wrestling he did in general once a week, and he wanted to do more actual wrestling in general. And I think maybe AEW kind of, I wouldn't say they turned on him, but like they probably just thought it could be a higher risk factor, especially considering the type of indie shows Joey does. You can't really make long-term story booking with Joey if he's going to do that, especially if he injures himself, and you're going to be more injury prone the more you wrestle.
Interesting.
So that was just my theory on it to the extent as well. Like there's a little bit of that in there, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. The match itself, though, so we have the vignette, and then we have the reveal of, and I'm calling them Colt Cabana, not Colt. Colt.
I'm calling him Colt Cabana, first of all, okay?
Okay, so you're going to go, no, I call him
it. Do we actually want to talk about the vignette, or?
The vignette wasn't bad, but it was just kind of like...
Let's leave it at that. Look it up. If you like smoky action movies, fighting movies, look it up. It was really fun.
I was going to call it a pure fluff piece for the most part. It wasn't really...
Oh, I loved it. It.
Let's talk about it, Dave. If you loved it, we'll talk about it. No.
We're short on time.
Okay, right.
You have to pick up your delivery. Your fault.
I just go put this on. I give you advance notice, sir. But yes, we go into the match where we are joined with Colt Cabana, but they come out separately. We'll give him some credit. Colt Cabana comes out before Mr. Brody Lee, but Mr. Brody Lee is joined by two of his underlings. So
Sylvan Reynolds, aka 4 and 5.
Sylvan Reynolds.
Sonny Kiss and Joe Janela beat them last week on Dark.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So I wasn't aware of that myself now, because I don't really follow Dark for reasons. Those reasons. I don't do it, but still. Interesting sort of match. We can see that the cult of old is still there, kind of losing, kind of getting done over. Sonny, Kiss, and Joey taking it to him massively. I have to say, I'm happy to see Sonny finally in a match on Dynamite, because Sonny is amazing. Like, he can move. He is really agile, really quick. Interesting offense, but that's kind of his quirk. That's his gimmick. Yeah. But the guy is a great wrestler. Wrestler. But then, obviously, that's not going to do for Big Daddy Brody Lee.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, Janela and Sonny just manhandle Cabana. He doesn't get a lick in. And then Lee comes to Cabana's aid. Silva and Reynolds interfere on behalf of Cabana even. But he doesn't pick up on that. He doesn't see the interference. He just thinks, okay, this is my time to get the shot in, gets the bionic elbow in, 1-2, kick out. And he gets beat up some more. Brody Lee tags in at some point, and he just crushes his opponents. And then he lets Cabana handle it again. Cabana immediately beaten down again. And that's kind of what I love about this match. It's a really good storytelling match. Right. Sonny does even a 450 on him. Brody Lee breaks up the pin. And then this is when Janela throws Brody Lee over the top rope. It looked really funny how he went over. Big lad thrown out by the little guy. And, I don't know, it looked funny to me. Oh yeah, I wrote down here, Sunny and Janela have the longest 10 count ever. You're only allowed to do like for a 10 count to act as a team in the ring, but they're in there for like 2 minutes, what it feels like. Just beating up Cabana again and again, and then Reynolds and Silva pull him out of the ring. Brody Lee, biggest boot of them all to Sunny Kiss. Janela dives out, Tope Suicida, but Lee just no-sells it, just stands there. It's amazing.
I won't lie, that looked brutal on Joey. I thought he legitimately hurt himself. I wasn't sure if that was a botch, but it looked like he took a lot of that on his head, and that was really scary to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But did you notice the subtle thing before the Tope Suicida, though?
He pushed Colt out of the way.
Took it for himself. He'd done the whole thing where he's like, "Oh, sorry, get away. This is I'll take this. You stay safe," which is interesting because it's fostering a friendship there.
He hits Janela with the discus clothesline back in the ring, and like he offers Cabana the pin. Well, Cabana is the legal man anyway, but Brody Lee, he acts like, "Here, take this cover. It's yours to have." Cabana covers Janela 1, 2, 3. And Cabana is really good acting from his side. He's almost shocked that he has won. Like, he can't believe it, but he's really happy about it. And great acting on the part of Lee as well, because he has this like almost fatherly smile on his face.
It's the smile of a good cult leader, though. That he's taking on the whole nature of what a cult leader should be, or what a cult leader is when he's effective, which is a wonderfully sinister and slightly smarmy individual who will lure you into a comfortable situation for you a false sense of embrace and comfort.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was struggling to find words there slightly. You probably noticed. But no, it was effective. Like it made Brody again look like the port in the storm, someone who's going to be safe. Then we have off the back of that there, we have then them walk together backstage, so it kind of again slightly solidifies the idea of them becoming closer. And then out of nowhere, the Murder Hawk strikes. Mr. Lance Archer comes in and absolutely devastates Sonny and Joey, just absolutely destroying them. It almost takes Sonny's head off by the looks of things on that initial run. I believe they had a dark match. Did they have a dark match with, or was there a segment with Dark there that they were involved in? There was something the commentary alluded to.
I don't think they did have a match, but this angle set up a match at Fyter Fest.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we know what that match is? Because I don't have that on my notes.
That's Archer versus Joey Janela.
Oh, is it just Archer and Joey?
Did I get this wrong? I believe it's them.
I'm just going to double check, unless it was announced that I didn't catch it.
Good dead air right here.
Yeah, because like only.
Lance Archer with his Joey Janela at Fyter Fest.
I didn't catch that then. I didn't catch that at all. Apologies. I'm interested. I'm keen to see how that goes. Again, Archer needs built, but then so does Joey. It's a worrying thing because those guys both need to start building their profiles again, and not both of them can't win.
And I don't understand why this is a match for Fyter Fest. I feel like Fyter Fest is meant to be bigger than a normal TV show, and this match doesn't really have the build behind it, and it's not like the wow match I want to see.
I think You know what I think it would be good if they implored a gimmick to it, like a hardcore match or some sort of like falls count anywhere match, because that really does go that falls into Joey Janela's wheelhouse really well. We know what he is like with those gimmick style matches. The one he had with Moxley was phenomenal. He is good with that there. The one he had with Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc was incredible. Remember the Cracker Barrel match?
Oh yeah,
Again, incredible. So that's a match type that really works well with him.
yeah.
Lance Archer's not actually a stranger to those matches as well. He had an incredible no DQ match with John Moxley, funny enough, for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship title at, I want to say it was Wrestle Kingdom there. About 5 months ago, or actually 6 months ago at this point, and it was incredible as well. So he's not a stranger to these types of matches. He's well versed in them as well, and I feel like that would be, if you're going to do, especially if you're going to have a pay per view level bout, that's a great bout.
Yeah, I'd definitely be more into it if they did a hardcore match, or like you said, Falls Count Anywhere, TLC even. Yeah, I want to see that now.
There's me being a booker that's actually half decent for once. Who would have thought it? Usually you're the booker. We have the next part with Sean Spears. You want to break that down for me?
Oh yeah, they actually, I think it's the first time they recapped a match on Dark. I think they've never shown clips of AEW Dark on Dynamite. And it's because Sean Spears has a new toy. He got this glove from Tully Blanchard, Shades of Four Horsemen, and he won the match by loading the glove with some kind of metal object to hit harder. It was really interesting how they played it up, because at the beginning of the match, Aubrey Edwards actually checked his glove if there's anything in there, and then Tully just puts it on the apron, distracts Aubrey, and yeah, Sean gets the object to win, but he also did a spine buster, like Arn Anderson.
Oh,
I don't know.
Are we still saying this?
Ty Dillinger, Dillinger does spine busters sometimes, but now he did a spine buster. And last week we talked about the Four Horsemen, and the next match has another Four Horsemen reference. And you actually called this last week. You said FTR would join the new Four Horsemen, and I said no. They said they didn't want to do a faction. They don't need a faction. They're fighting the Young Bucks right now. And here they are, foreshadowing Four Horsemen. But let's actually get into the match.
I'm not gonna say it was just the nuances that I saw, but I'm glad that I'm somewhat a little bit insightful in that respect. The next match, which I think is just one of liquid gold, we had FTR versus the SCU pairing of Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. When I say liquid gold, it's just because that is two incredible tag teams. I mean, that just know each other and just do tag team wrestling well. Like Kazarian and Chris Daniels have been doing tag team wrestling since their days on TNA. Maybe even before that. So they're very well versed in each other's nuances. It's pretty much ballet to them at this point. They know everything everything off the top of their heads, and they know what they're just going to do. And then you can say the same thing for FTR, but FTR play for a more, again, that old school Four Horsemen, just, meat and veg style wrestling where it's no flips, just fists, just pure. Just if we're gonna allude to the Revival days, no flips, just fists, just good old tag team psychology, Yeah. But before that even happens, we have this wonderful entrance where FTR are coming down, and Britt looks so happy to see them, and then they just blank Britt, and she then ends up getting so pissed off and sends a note to Tony Schiavone telling that FTR can get the funk out. Which is so good. Again, just little shades like that. But there was comparisons to Arn and Tully as well in the match, like you mentioned to FTR, just that old school sort of like, you know, just traditional tag team wrestling stuff you would see AWA and back in those old federations as well. It's looking like it's looking pretty good, and there's a bit of a flurry at one point. It gets a little bit chaotic because all four men are in the team or in the ring at once because you know no, they're showing up each other, and suddenly egos have gotten a little bit too big. But for the most part, it's pretty much it's just liquid wrestling. It's just really great tag team wrestling, but with those subtle nuances. But then obviously FTR wins with a Good Night Express, which is just such a beautiful. It's just a beautiful move. Like what a great sort of just like a flapjack into a code breaker is just.
Like the 3D is the best tag team finisher of all time, and this is an upgraded version of that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like they took the 3D and went, how can I put more stopping power into literally the opponent's face? Because like again, the 3D is kind of like a flapjack into a stunner, which is great, or into a cutter. Where this is like a flapjack into a code breaker, which is two knees in someone's face. It's just a brilliant sort of evolution of that. There, you're 100% right.
Yeah. So a lot of people online, they're really fond of that match. Actually, I've seen quite a few people call it their favorite match of the show. I'm actually quite down on it.
Really?
Yeah, okay. It was a fine match, but it wasn't a great match. I haven't seen the FTR I want to see in Dynamite and AEW since they joined. They are so incredible at doing psychological tag team wrestling at the highest level, and I haven't seen that from them.
You're waiting for that.
Very, very formulaic WWE-like matches, unfortunately.
You're waiting for that match, which shades of DIY versus Revival. You're waiting for that, are you?
Oh God, yes, I do.
You're waiting for that. I feel like that's coming, but I feel like that's coming when we finally get to the Bucks versus them. Where right now they're still in the build-up period. We're still building Rome here. If you know what I mean.
I think the match that was announced at the end of this match might possibly the best FTR match in AEW. Don't know.
I got a feeling this is going to be their coming out party. This will be it. Before we get that, their actual announcement, they do a post-match promo, which they're not just bad guys or good guys. They're the baddest guys. Let me tell you, Freed, they're the baddest guys out there. Kind of little bits of like again nuances, sort of project into the tag teams of old, a little bit Arn and Tully in there, you know, which works. But we get interrupted by. And do you know you want to tell us who we get interrupted by when this happens?
Oh yeah, we're getting interrupted by the Butcher, the Blade, without the bunny. But they're in the sort of pickup truck that FTR used for the entrance, and the Blade has a mic, and they threaten the car. They have a baseball bat. They say, "Hey, if you do anything, we will smash this car." And then we cut to the ring and we see the return of the Cero, Meow, the Lucha Brothers are back.
Which was a shock to me, if I'm honest. I thought Penta was still locked in Mexico at this point.
Yeah. Yes, shocking, definitely. And our Lucha Brothers attack FTR, and the Blade announces they will fight together with the Lucha Brothers, the Young Bucks, and FTR at Fyter Fest. Really looking forward to this match. But they truck-napped their car. 2 weeks of people stealing vehicles just once with a person inside.
Do you think that maybe the trope's getting a little bit too stale now? If it happens again, we'll be having to start wondering who's recycling the rulebook or the playbook here?
I mean, after kidnapping, carnapping is a step down, so they're calming down.
Because like I kind of alluded to the fact that they used the same playbook twice last week when it came to the rare naked chokes with items. We had two of those back to back as well.
Right. Right. And a lot of accidental headbutts last week as well.
Yeah, those planned accidental headbutts, damn it. But we have that match is announced just after Young Bucks come out and come to the aid of FTR, and you hear if you listen carefully, you could hear, I think it was Dax who said, "Where were you guys?" And Matt goes, "Well, we're here now," you know.
Yeah. I mean, the Lucha Brothers hit their spiking the package pile driver on one of FTR. Can't remember which one. Yeah, the Lucha Brothers, the Young Bucks took their sweet time to come out there.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? But then again, the whole thing that the commentary says that the locker room is at the other side of the stadium.
Yeah,
that's a common thing when they say that the locker room's the other side of the stadium.
But the Young Bucks are a bit heelish, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're not going
to. They are faces, but with shades of heel.
Yeah, I'll give you that. They're tweeners.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way you can call them, is tweeners. We go then into which I thought was a fucking hilarious interview segment with Best Friends and Hangman and Kenny.
We are hugging because it makes us strong. John, it makes us strong.
Do you find yourself getting strong when you hug? Is that something you feel? What's I can barely hear you. You're growling so much you're blowing out your mic.
Oh yeah. Tends to happen. Yeah, we are hugging because it makes us strong.
I've never felt stronger unless I was in your open embrace. But we have that there.
They're kind of contrasting the best friends versus the best wrestlers. That's kind of the story they're running with here.
Which is interesting because like it makes sense. It's like it's a nice like down the line dichotomy, and like it's a different interview style than what we had from when Hangman and Kenny had to defend their titles against the Bucks, where it was more sit down interview with JR. This is more of they're in two different rooms, two different locations, and they're kind of going back and forth. Really well cut. But the end really caught me off guard because of Hangman's comments at the end. Like, he was very complimentary, but he still said, "But I'll still kick their ass."
Yeah.
It's like, they're good, but I'll still kick their ass.
It was great. I also liked when Kenny went through this list. We did XYZ just like that. We aren't even a tag team. We won the tag titles just like that. And he has a whole list. It's just great promo.
You know what I thought's interesting though? Little side note. Kenny used to tag with Chuck Taylor on the Indies way back in the day. Former tag team partners.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Back in the Indies, they used to tag together.
Interesting.
So I don't know how that's going to play out in the match, or if there's going to be a bit of chemistry there. But yeah, they used to actually be tag partners.
Well, I'm intrigued how this will affect the match, if it does indeed.
But it was good overall. Good, nothing. It served its purpose. It got me excited for a match that's going to happen in a week's time. But we have our vignette for Fyter Fest, which is like for
Moxley and Cage. Yeah, it's basically the same video package they've been showing for the last 2 weeks when they fought in the parking lot and Cage threw him through the windshield. I think they had new talk. The stuff they talked over the segment was new, but I mean, at this point it was same old shit. But I get why they had to do it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because with recent events, and we'll talk about it later. We don't know if that match is going to really go ahead, but we'll allude to that later. The next match was another interesting match. We have Mr. Brian Cage versus Joe Cruz. Joey Cruz? Joe Cruz or Joey Cruz?
I think he was known as the 3 question marks. At least that's what my note says.
The 3 question marks. Interesting.
I didn't catch his name.
I think I caught his name after the match because the match wasn't. I wouldn't call it a match. It was another squash fest. We had.
I mean, he could have won in like 4 seconds, but he took his time so Taz could get his promo out in commentary.
So instead of taking 4, he took 30. Overall,
but he does this like amazing powerbomb from the ramp into the ring He tosses this guy so far, so hard. It's amazing.
He is a genetic machine. Like, he is
Oh yeah.
an absolute big cut of beef. The man's athletic girth is off the charts. You know, he's kind. I thought Wardlow was going to be AEW's Lesnar, but like, it's clearly Brian Cage, right? It's clearly Brian Cage.
Yeah, they're building him right now as such. Yes.
Yeah. But it was a standard jobber affair. There's not really much to talk about here. Taz then comes out and cuts another absolutely fire promo on Moxley in the ring, kind of calling him out in his absence.
Hmm.
And he's absent for good reason. He's been absent for very good reason. The man's loaded. We're actually allowed to say these words now. The man's loaded with COVID. Or he's
Yeah.
not loaded with COVID. His wife is loaded with COVID. YouTube recently took the ban off that word, by the way. We can actually say it.
He was exposed to someone with COVID, which is Renee Young, yes, and he felt it was unsafe if he came to Dynamite, which is a laudable of him. It's a very good decision of him to not endanger people.
Even
But
though he was tested negative, he did have tests as well and tested negative. He fought better than to try it or to test it.
yes, but Taz used this brilliantly. He twisted it around because he pointed at Brian Cage. He says, "Yeah, don't come to this ring again because getting in the ring with this man, this is unsafe." Brutal, Taz. Brutal.
Real good heel heat just drawn in from real life circumstance. I appreciate it. I thought that was great. There wasn't really much to say much more off the back of that. It was just good. It was just a good sort of segment promo where he's just ripping in the back of him. Then we have the post match chat with Colt Cabana and Mr. Brody Lee, and that books as the SCU match at Fyter Fest.
I love this. The facial expression of Colt Cabana during this, the facial expression of Cody Rhodes. Their banter at first. Colt goes like, "That felt really, really good. Winning feels really good," and that's kind of this. That was their hook, right? He was he had a losing streak, and they offered him a win, and now he got this win, and now he's hooked. Like the first use is free kind of a dealer situation here, right? They got him hooked now.
They got him hooked on drugs, yeah.
Yeah, and Brody with his cult gimmick. It's not about how you. It's not about losing itself. It's how about you react to a loss, alluding to you need to develop yourself. You need to grow a little bit. And then he announces they're going to fight SCU. We remember Colt Cabana when he first joined AEW. He saved SCU from the Dark Order, and now he's on the other side of it. He joined AEW and he lost. He was with SCU, and how do you react to his loss? How do you develop? Yeah, and now he's on the other side. He just won. Come to the dark side. We have cookies.
The dark side. You're not wrong though. Like it's like a drug. It's an allure. It's an addictive substance. The idea of serotonin in itself. So he's got that serotonin of a post match win.
But Colt Cabana isn't still there. He has still second thoughts about facing SCU, and that's like the really interesting thing about this storyline, isn't it? And I fantasy booked this last week. Yeah, he has to question himself: how much am I willing to give up of myself to win? What is more important, winning, or in this very real case, beating my friends? Like probably even not quite backstabbing, but help me, John. What's the word I'm looking for?
You know, it's kind
betraying. It's kind of
betrayal.
Yeah.
You know, you're turning your back on the people that you're meant to say you care about and that you're friends with. Like, there is a element of betrayal there, yeah. That then leads us into the next segment, which is probably going to be your favorite, which is Britt Baker sending notes again. But then is interrupted out of nowhere by Big Swole. But the problem is it's a Popemobile now. You can't. She's got security, so the car can't be taken. You can't get at her because she's got perspex around her. So what does Big Swole do? Well, Big Swole brings the trash to her this time.
I like how you put that.
She brings the trash to her. You can't take Britt Baker to the trash. You bring the trash to Britt Baker. Gets on top of the Popemobile and just unloads what looks to be the dirtiest bin she can find. Just all sorts. It destroys a very good Appletini, mind you.
Oh yeah.
Not happy about that. Never was Britt. It just covers her head, and I love the reaction of Reba. It's like Reba's not trying to get her off at the way. She's trying to blow her away with a leaf blower. What the hell?
I like the subtlety of it because, like, in the open space, some people would use a leaf blower to get the trash off the property, right?
Yeah, they would, yes. That makes sense. Like, they would do that. That is a fair statement. That's an accurate statement. That people would do that. It's just
I love how
weird.
they fix the feud around trash, and it's over. It's got over.
It's like it's just incredible. Just like it's stupid, but it's wonderfully stupid in the right way. It got a giggle out of me. I was happy about that. We're on to then our next match, which I actually thought was the main event. Well, technically it is the main event, but I thought it was the last segment for the night. I was wrong. I completely forgot there was a segment after this. But we have
You forgot the real event. Shame on you.
My apologies. But then we have Santana versus Matt Hardy.
Oh yeah,
and
broken Matt.
Yes,
the fans could vote with it. Yeah.
There was a possibility it could have been Team Extreme, it could have been Mattitude V1, it could have been Broken, it could have been Big Money Matt. But no, it was Broken. It was Mr. Broken Matt, and we had Neo 1 come to the ring as well. So we have Nature's Electronic Organism bring Matt to the ring as well. Not bring him to the ring, but there's the pageantry of having Neo out there, and obviously you can see Santana not one bit happy about this. And then there's a as we're trying to watch the start of the match, we're completely distracted. At least I was completely distracted by Tony Schiavone loudly bickering and arguing with Britt Baker.
Oh yeah. It was a nice touch.
It was a nice touch. Like it felt like there was a bit of natural fluid, like natural anger, but like fluid anger happening between the two and their friendship.
It felt kind of real, right? If that just happened to this character, Britt Baker, she would just sit there and shut up and let the commentators do the thing, would she? She would do that.
She was all over them, and it made sense. The character made sense. It was a vindictive shrew of a woman shouting at a supposed friend over transgressions that weren't even his fault.
Yes. Do
you want to take us through the match, though? I would love for you to take us through the match.
I mean, I don't really have much written down. Matt Hardy at one point hits 3 side effects back to back. Still isn't enough. And maybe I did miss something because JR at one point said that Matt Hardy hurt his leg because he walked kind of injured, but I was just thinking that's how Matt Hardy has been walking since the last couple of years, right? Because of all the accumulated damage, because of all the injuries he picked up.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that happened during this match that made him.
So, I don't know if you missed it, but there looked like there had been like a bit of a botch. So there was a pretty aggressive Irish whip and maybe this is where Matt Hardy's leg gave out, but Matt Hardy's face collides with the bottom turnbuckle, and it looked particularly brutal. I've never seen anyone being whipped in face first into the bottom turnbuckle. It looked like a bit of a stumble. I think that's maybe where JR was alluding to this here. It was a bit sore, a bit aggressive, and a bit. It looked like if Matt hadn't turned his head right, he could have broke his nose just where he landed into it. So he was very lucky the way he kind of just repositioned himself on the bump. But it looks pretty bad. It did look pretty bad. We had Ortiz the whole time, just being Ortiz. I thought he was. I think I love Ortiz. Like he's a lunatic. He's a lunatic in the right way. He had one great line that at one point where it says, "I don't need to touch you, but I'm gonna touch you," and then starts beating on him. It looks pretty bad. It looked pretty bad. This is when Santana has the ref distracted and he can't see what's happening to Matt. And I just love that line, and then going into the interference because it was like just chef's kiss, beautiful, beautiful. Only other there was a few hard reversals on an attempt at Matt Hardy, pretty much just to rule up the win. It wasn't a great match, if I'm honest. Matt Hardy, I think something must have happened to him because he just didn't seem as mobile as he normally is. Unfortunately,
dude, he hasn't been mobile in the last couple of years. Really,
he hasn't. But he at least can still work in the ring. But there, he looked worse for wear. He didn't look as. I know. Right? He's not healthy, but he didn't look healthy.
I don't think he looked any worse than in his other recent matches. I mean, I've talked to you about this when he first joined AEW, and he still did a ladder spot. He did his usual moveset, and I think he needs to evolve his moveset, or rather, he should have evolved his moveset 5 years ago to something more sustainable. Like Jericho did, just transition more into the brawler style of a fighter, of a wrestler, and you get 5 more years to your career.
I think what will happen is the way he's kind of gravitating towards because again after the match we have a beatdown with Santana and Ortiz, and then Private Party come out to save him. This is after they do a street sweeper to him. Something gives me the impression that Matt Hardy is going to transition soon to a management talent, much like Taz. I feel like he's there to do the odd occasional match when it makes sense, but I've got a feeling he is I feel like he's going to transition. He's seeing out his career in AEW, but then he's going to transition into more of a side ring personality or a manager or something like a statesman who's going to impart his knowledge onto these younger talent.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think
with the occasional match.
The occasional match, and I think that's smart for AEW because they do have a lot of young talent, and a person like Matt Hardy has a lot to give to talent, so that makes sense. But yeah, he just didn't. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. He just didn't seem as fluid, even as fluid as he normally is. He just didn't seem as fluid as he could have been.
Yeah.
Then we have the last segment. I don't know if we could really call it a match, but we had the last segment. You have a glee in your eye and your face that I'm just going to let you walk us through this then, if you don't mind.
Chris Jericho confronts Orange Cassidy, and it was art. It was beautiful. It was the art of the wrestling promo, you might say. Chris Jericho cut this awesome promo. Basically, he takes real stuff, he absolutely trashes Orange Cassidy, but still puts him over in some way. And he starts he tells the chicken crossed the road joke, And he keeps telling it and telling it and telling it. And you're wondering, what's he going on about? And he says, yeah, it's funny the first time you hear it, right? But then the more you hear it, the less funny it gets. And eventually, it just gets annoying. Orange Cassidy is the "why did the chicken cross the road" joke of wrestling. It's just a brutal line. It's just a very brutal line. And he's kind of, you can see that because some people tell you that. And actually, you can't watch 5 Orange Cassidy matches back to back. The 5th isn't as fun as the 1st or the 2nd. And a lot of people have put him down as this one-trick pony, this comedy guy who's not serious. And Chris Jericho talks about it. He says Orange Cassidy is an embarrassment to business. And then when Orange Cassidy was signed to AEW, he called Tony, he called the Bucks, he called Kenny, and told them, why did you sign this guy? Why did you actually sign this idiot? And they all told him, yeah, because people love him. And why do people love him? Wrestling Promo 101? Because he's just like them. He's lazy. He's a slacker. He doesn't have what it takes to make it to the top. And basically, Cassidy made a mistake when he crossed Jericho. And then he says, if you try any of that, kick you on the shins, BS, I will punch your teeth down your throat and win in 30 seconds. And he says, yeah, go on, put your hands in your pockets. Maybe you can pull out a man-sized miracle out of those pockets. Ooh, I love this promo, but I also love what came next. Do you want to take it?
Yes, so we have the moment where Jericho makes the biggest mistake. And if you ever watched the Orange Cassidy match, the biggest mistake is you don't mess with Orange Cassidy's glasses. And Jericho takes the glasses off and doesn't just take them off.
John, you missed. You need to mention that he does the shin kicks.
Yes, so you're right. He did do the shin kicks. My apologies.
Important part, because Jericho just threatened him. He will punch his teeth in. And
you're right. I forgot. He does have the bravado of those kids.
He takes the mic, but he puts it down, and Cassidy almost looks defeated. If you ask me, he didn't look. It wasn't just laziness. He felt maybe hurt, and he was like, he didn't say it, but he kind of looked like, yeah, okay, I guess I am this joke, right? I'm just this one-trick pony, right? I'm just this embarrassment to wrestling, right? And he does his lazy shin kick, the other lazy shin kick, and Chris Jericho just he looks fuming. Jericho is so angry at him, and Orange this lazy super kick, and Jericho looks like he's about to explode, and then he takes the glasses. What a heel, might I mention, right? Just
he doesn't just take the glasses. He destroys them. He bends. He takes these perfectly shiny, wonderful aviators and crushes them down the middle. And just, if you watch the Orange Cassidy match, you don't do that. You don't touch the man's glasses. It's his sacred item. It's the one thing that you just don't do. And anyone who's ever done it has reaped what they've sowed with that atrocity. And he just lights up Jericho. He does the thing, and JR brilliantly makes a point of saying that just like last week, Jericho is susceptible to the double leg takedown because Cassidy just literally takes his legs, and you would see this in MMA, and he just beautifully sweeps his legs to either side of Cassidy and just goes in for a ground pound motion, and he is just lighting up Jericho, just a full force, a flurry of fists, because at this point he's been insulted by his gimmick. He's been tied down as a joke. He's been questioned why he should even be in this company and his position in the company itself. And he's destroyed his property, the one thing that he actually does care about. And now Cassidy's pissed. He is just done. It's like he's had enough of Jericho. He is going to light him up, and then it just turns into this massive brawl. It's like something you would see in a in an empty arena match. They just start taking each other on a small journey up the rampart and just beating each other up. And JR makes this weird kind of like weird comment of saying, they're not observing social distancing. It's like, they're wrestlers, JR. Of course they're not. You're sitting 5 centimeters away from someone. You're not observing social distancing.
But dude, they're actually going up the rafters, and they have quite a few people there.
True. But JR's also not even like a meter away from someone. You know, that's the one thing that's kind of like, come on, be self-aware when you say stuff like that. But he starts beating 7 shades out of each other, and they have this like, it looks like at one point Jericho's about to do some, just like they kind of like scuffle around to the production side, and they get on top of one of those anvil flight cases, and it just looks like Jericho's about to do some really heinous things to Cassidy, but he manages to break free, and then Cassidy is back on the ramp. After pretty much like, you know, breaking free of Jericho, they're a bit stunned. Jericho's finding his footing, and you said last week that we saw the best Superman punch ever. I think we found a new contender for the best Superman punch ever. Orange Cassidy.
In fighting games like Street Fighter, you have your Hadouken. You do a quarter movement forward. If you do the quarter movement forward twice and then press the button, you do an X.
The EX version.
That was the X Superman punch.
So you're saying you give him an EX Superman punch?
Yes.
Well, then the EX Superman punches him, and he does some distance on it, right? Like, he goes right far back into a production table, and a TV.
Jumps over this guardrail. Superman punches Jericho. Jericho flies back 1.5, 2 meters, and I think he took a fall through a table, right?
Fall through a table with a massive TV. Well, not a massive TV, but like a substantially sized production TV on top of him as well. You know, and then we see just like Jericho's broken body amongst the rubble of like this production equipment, and then we turn back, and then suddenly Cassidy is standing there, and I noticed in the game that he was bleeding from the same ear. He was bleeding from the same ear this time because, and this is something I forgot to mention, Jericho hits him with a jib prior to this actual action. He takes the camera jib and bashes him with it, and I think that's where the blood came from, the blood on the ear. Weirdly enough, same ear though that Jericho managed to make bleed the previous week when he assaulted him with the blood oranges.
I was 2 weeks ago, but yes, same year as
Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. My apologies. Which is interesting because I'm wondering if there's maybe a piercing there or something that keeps catching, because it was just very, very coincidental. It was the same ear, but you have this great image of like Cassidy standing there with like no jacket on. He's got his white t-shirt on, but he's also got his sunglasses back on, so he's got his power back. But you have this wonderful visual where like the blood is coming off him, and it's just dripping down this sort of down his like right breast, and that image, it looks like he's been not through the wars, but he's had a rough fight. Like, he is showing a lot of grit there, and he's came out on top, and it was the perfect way to end Dynamite for that there, because that just shows that, yeah, you know what, Cassidy's a bit of a gimmick. Yes, he's a bit of a jokester. Yes, he's a bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to that stuff, like you said earlier. You can't watch 5 Orange Cassidy matches in a row. It just doesn't get fun after a while. But when he needs to, he can feckin' go. He can go.
He can flip the switch. He's a great wrestler underneath the comedy gimmick. And when he does, it's more meaningful because he doesn't do it all the time.
Yeah, it's like there's less diminishing returns because his moves are impactful because you don't see the moves every week. Yeah. When he does a Superman punch, you haven't seen one for maybe a month or two. So when it happens, am I right in thinking that the Superman punch could be one of the most protected moves in AEW at the minute?
It's more meaningful because he doesn't do it all the time. I mean, the only person who does them right now is Orange Cassidy, and he did one last week, one this week.
But before that, there was months, maybe about a month before he done it again, before part of that there, and then maybe a few months before that. It seems like it's like a to me it's like his mini nuke. You know,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah, he's got like a pocket nuke or like a nuke on the end of his arm. He just kind of like you don't see it coming, and next thing you know, you're devastated. It's like you have just incredible amounts of fallout all over you. You know,
Yeah.
But like we all know, the one-winged angel is the most is theoretically the most. No theory about it. The one-winged angel is the most protected move in AEW, right? No one has ever kicked out of it. But I'm starting to think the Superman punch might be starting to build that level of esteem. We'll have to see next week when we see the match if that ends the match.
Good as far as calling it that. He needs to win some matches with it. I think he beat who did he fight? Peter Avalon last week. This week on Dark.
Right.
And he beat him with the Superman punch. But let's actually see him win some meaningful matches.
I mean,
Sorry, Peter Avalon.
Sorry, Peter. But I think it could be, though. I'm just saying this out loud because if he doesn't use it often and it wins matches and no one kicks out, it's a protected move. You know? But that's Dynamite for now. What would you think? What do you think of Dynamite overall? What would you give it?
Solid 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5, really? Okay. I thought I would have given it maybe a 3.5 out of 5. Only reason I didn't say 4 is that just a bit too much squash matches for my liking. With in regards to Hikaru and Brian Cage, I get why, but it's still a bit too squashy for me.
I gave it a high mark because there were several good matches on the show, like really enjoyable matches. They had several good segments. A closing segment was just super mega hype. Obviously a go home show for Fighter Fest, if you want to call it a go home show for that. And I think they did their job. Fight show, enjoyed it, start to finish.
Okay. So I say 3 out of 5. You're saying 4 out of 5. Overall, great show though. Great show.
What's your favorite?
My favorite match, honestly. See, I'm slightly differing on the opinion you because I did really quite enjoy the SCU and FTR match because I did feel like that was just solid liquid gold. Like there was just a wonderful fluidity to that match. I would have said that was my favorite match. Segment, if we're talking overall segments, obviously the Jericho Orange Cassidy face off would be the favorite segment, but match wise I would have actually said FCU and FTR. What about yourself?
I was at first I couldn't choose between the Lumberjack match and the Dark Order match, but I went with the Dark Order match because it was a great storytelling match, and I have great respect for people who can do a good storytelling match. And they did.
Yeah, like that would definitely. If I didn't pick the FTR match, it would have been that. There, you're right. There was like, again, there was not so much ring psychology, but like a story was told. We by the end of it, we knew what the motivation of Brody Lee was and what Cult was going to go, where Cult was going off the back of this. Should we move on to the next segment?
Of course.
Okay, next segment, guys, we'll talk about is the news, wrestling news this week. We have a few different things. Do you want to start us off in the news, Freed? What have you got for us?
Yeah, let's talk about the Undertaker. Undertaker's been in the news quite a bit this week because over last weekend the final episode of The Undertaker's Last Ride came out, and it kind of sounded like he's retired now. And a lot of people went to social media and yeah, basically, thank you, Taker. WWE released some posts on Twitter thanking The Undertaker for everything. And if you watch the Undertaker's Last Ride, this 5-episode miniseries, you kind of get the impression that it's all building up to this retirement angle and kind of explaining why he's retiring and his journey to retirement, if you want to call it that. And let's just say this. We are not saying The Undertaker is retired officially. It's pro wrestling. Never say never, pro wrestling. And if you listen to the story, even the documentary tells The Undertaker is kind of portrayed as this guy who's addicted to this last match. He's chasing the dragon, as Triple H puts it. He's never satisfied with his final match. But he says at the end of Last Ride, yeah, I could never imagine myself like stepping away from the ring, and I would always think I would have regrets doing it. But now, for the first time in my life, I think I can do this. So, what are your thoughts?
I feel like that's came off the back of what they done with the cinematics. So we had that wonderful Boneyard match, and I was quite skeptical before the Boneyard match came out, but they managed to put something together for WrestleMania that actually made WrestleMania worthwhile watching, despite the fact that I had a less than enthusiastic opinion going into WrestleMania, but that blew me away. I love the Boneyard match. There's parts of me that feel like. So I've seen contradicting reports. I saw the social media like yourself saying thank you Taker and all of the wrestlers thanking him for his service and all that jazz, and a lot of great messages from people who look up to the Undertaker on social media. But then and then 2 days later after that, I saw a news article saying the Undertaker saying he might come back for another match, which is just like, for the love of God, pick one. You're either in or you're out. Stop it. Just stop it. Like, if you go out on that Boneyard match, that is the best way to go out. Like, that made you look like that made you look like Superman. You came out beating up 3 guys. You retained that edge, that badassery, and you had a stellar moment where he throws up his arm, and then the pyro goes off, and his logo is on the barn.
And
what more do you need to go out?
He rides away on his motorcycle. Beautiful ending to the career. It's like they wanted to give him this picture perfect moment to retire, like they did with the Roman Reigns match. Like when he put off his coat, his hat, and put them down in the ring, and even kissed his wife Michelle McCool at ringside. Broke kayfabe, essentially.
The first time I ever
that was kind of the stage where everyone thought, okay, this is it, right? And that wasn't it for him. He did have a couple of matches, and I think it's fair to call all of his matches after that kind of disastrous, maybe except the Cena one, but that was really short.
Squash match.
And like you said, then they gave him this Boneyard match at WrestleMania. The way it was shot, it could hide his age a little bit, the sluggishness of his movements maybe. I mean, maybe that's a bit too harsh, but it helped. It helped the presentation of his star, right?
Well, it's the Paul Heyman approach, right? Accentuate the positives, hide the weaknesses, right? It's the Heyman classic right there, and it done what it needed to do. It accentuated the positives and hid the weaknesses, and that makes total sense. Like that is how that is meant to go. My fear is that he's never going to be happy, right? He's just never going to be happy, and if this continues, he's already put himself in jeopardy and almost got himself killed in that fight, that match with Goldberg. Like, when they went up to do that jackhammer, he came down so close to breaking his neck, and that was WWE doesn't let their talent ever leave the ring. I mean, there's a worrying report on a different article that came out this week that Raw has no interest in building new stars, which makes me think that they're just going to keep relying on old classics. Like we saw Christian come back in recent weeks. We saw Ric Flair, who should not be anywhere near that building right now, come back. It's concerning. It's very concerning. I don't like it.
Taker has always been the kind of guy, if Vince needs me, I will be there for him.
And Vince has got too comfortable doing it.
Yeah, he has. And like in the last ride, we see him at WrestleMania. Which WrestleMania was it? Where he didn't wrestle? Was it last year? 2 years ago.
Didn't wrestle?
Yeah, one WrestleMania he missed. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Doesn't really matter. He sat out this one. He was on Raw the night after, but he sat out on this WrestleMania, and he's backstage, and he talked, and you see it in his face. Like he was happy all day long, but then he's backstage there, and he's not on the card, and he doesn't really matter. He's really sad. He has this really sad look in his eye. He's not really a part of this, and it's kind of his thing. WrestleMania. He's always been a part of WrestleMania. This is, and that's when he wanted to come back to do a couple of more matches, and then he had a couple of horrible matches on top of that. And what I'm getting is, I think next year's WrestleMania will be kind of the stress test for the Undertaker retirement. If he is still retired then and can be there backstage without coming back, he might have done it.
That's a big if, though. It's a big if. I think the biggest telling point of that there is if we see crowds at a WrestleMania next year, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next year. We don't know how the pandemic is going to affect us for the foreseeable future. America's handling of the situation right now has been less than stellar, is probably the polite way I could put it, and that reflects us on the next news article where there's been multiple confirmed tests of COVID-19 among the SmackDown roster, predominantly from what I understand. We had confirmed cases for Renee Young that we talked about earlier. We also had Kayla Braxton, which is one of the ringside announcers, who was a confirmed case, as well as a backstage producer. There's a lot of
rumors of at least 24 people, and the horrible thing around all this is the talent, the employees backstage, they didn't hear about this from WWE. They read it on social media.
Yeah, they didn't tell their staff, and it's actually been a lot of anger of the staff now. So a lot of the talent are not happy. They are and rightfully so, are incredibly pissed off at the fact that they're hearing about this on the likes of social media, on the likes of the dirt sheets, and they're not hearing this from their own internal communications, which is just shocking. I don't know how can you be so callous and ignorant to your roster.
There's WWE Executive Vice President John Brody told in some kind of reporter interview. Sorry, I can't remember it on top of my head, but he said Vince wants to put defense first right now, and he gave it this whole PR spiel. Like the fans need the distraction from all the horrible things around them right now and stuff like that. But what Vince is saying, he's putting the fans first, like the product first, is what he means, and not the health of the talent. And that's what's going on here.
Ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous that's the case right now. It makes me wonder what in good Christ is going on in his head. But then again, we are talking about the company that's done temperature checks as coronavirus tests for months. For
Yeah.
months.
And their statement about the confirmed cases was WWE will continue to do corona tests for the shows. Like they did that, right? They did it once, and that was because they had confirmed infections, right? Continue to do it. The hubris of them to even say that.
Well, that's the thing. Like they think that a temperature check is a test. It's not. A temperature check is the most useless thing you can do for a coronavirus. Asymptomatic asymptomatic carriers don't bloody have anything that'll tell you that there. The only thing they'll tell you is an actual proper swab test.
But like Triple H said, we have so many procedures in case, and they have all worked. They have all worked so far. Yeah, until they didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're here right now.
And here's the thing as well. Apparently, I read today that they were running the SmackDown recordings last week, and that staff had to essentially wait to get their confirmation that they were A-okay to work the SmackDown before they were let to do their matches. And they were given their tests. They were waiting for test results back. As the test result came in, a talent got out and go to do their match or do their segment or whatever. The actual test didn't come out to 2 days later. So they told their staff that they passed the test when they feckin' didn't.
Yeah.
What is going on? Like, how can you do that to people? How is that legal?
At least friends and families are no longer allowed at ringside. They're doing all they can do, John. Just listen to the PR. It's ludicrous.
And did you see they're trying to avoid wearing masks now because the Performance Center is a privately owned building, despite that there's an Orange County order that if you're in amongst public areas, you have to have a mask on?
Yeah. I mean, maybe they need to do another donation to a politician to get away with that. Make another call to the buddy in Washington.
Oh, her lovely. What's her? It's her like. It's not a strike team, but they have like a wonderful team together to try and boost economy and boost sports performance or something. It's some stupid sort of American committee at the minute that Linda McMahon is conveniently heading up. That also affects the WWE work rights and policies, which is just lovely. It's not a bit of corruption at all.
Yeah, no.
It's ludicrous. We live literally in a world where one company can abuse its staff to the point of putting friends, family, and young children at risk because for the sake of network money. That's all it is. They can do it because they need to keep a show to keep themselves on the networks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the WWE doesn't even provide insurance for the talent.
Yeah, there's no health insurance.
We're in a pandemic with no precautions whatsoever.
No, they'll test you, but they probably won't treat you.
Well, they wouldn't test you until a week ago.
Oh, that's a fair point as well. And the worst part is, like, the thing we alluded to as well is that this has wider scale ramifications. Like, this is going to affect Dynamite now because one of the people involved in the infected with this and bear in mind, Renee Young had a confirmed test. It wasn't a WWE test. This was a private test she did. So this wasn't WWE provided. She felt unwell and as a result got a private test done and got confirmation for COVID. Off the back of that there, Moxley was tested as well, and he was tested negative. He is electing to stay at home with Renee because it's his wife, even though people suggested that he should go to a hotel. He's staying with his wife, and I understand. If your wife is sick, you just don't abandon your wife. That's ludicrous. And going to a hotel...
We should also mention that Renee Young reportedly feels better now.
Yeah, she's starting to feel better now. She's not as bedridden as she was once. But they wanted him to go to a hotel. People were suggesting he would go to a hotel, but there's actually higher risks of getting COVID at a hotel as well, because there's hotel staff that interact with your bedding, with your food, and also people you interact with during the hotel itself. And so there's actually a higher risk of that there at a hotel because of higher rates of contact with individuals compared to maybe you staying at home. I think from my understanding, he's just trying to keep a safe distance at home from Renee, but is going to be there if he needs to interact with Renee, because you can't leave your sick wife by themselves. That's ludicrous, especially something like COVID that could kill you. If you have underlying symptoms or underlying ailments, it could kill you. We don't know what
Yeah,
Renee has. She might have asthma. She might have an underlying condition. We don't know this, and it's understandable that the man wants to stay with his wife.
yeah. Moxley is being a straight up upright, good, good husband, good human being. For doing that, doesn't want to endanger the other people at AEW. Um,
But this does have ramifications. We might
this
not
does,
have a title match in 2 weeks' time.
right, and Fighter Fest will be taped next week, right?
Yes,
Will be
there is a Orange County order that is going to shut down the state again, and so Fighter Fest will be, from my understanding, recorded. Is going. I think we have a live Dynamite next week, and then the day after is the recording of Fighter Fest for the following week. Or not live
well,
Dynamite, but a live Fighter Fest, and then
yeah,
a pre-recorded Fighter Fest. Sorry.
yeah. They they could do like this empty arena match kind of thing they did with Hager in 2 weeks time,
Hmm.
because if you test him again in 2 weeks, or like a little bit less than 2 weeks now, and he gets a negative result, maybe it's fair to say he's safe for work. I mean, they get a production crew together to just film that one match. That's maybe a way they could get around this.
Potentially, yeah. But
But
the pro- but the
otherwise,
problem
it's not on the title match, yeah.
there is wider spread issues with this overall, though. With the lockdown in Orange County, there's
Yeah.
also been issues in relation to access to other states. So the likes of New York, where a heavy amount of AEW talent is from, is not allowing you to, if you fly from the likes of Florida or any other states that have a high risk of coronavirus infection, you have to quarantine for 14 days upon entering New York, which means that talent might not be able to return to Florida once they come back from Florida if they fly. Now they haven't. That's specifically flights. They haven't said anything about driving. So that the possibility is that maybe they'll take the hit that must be like a 10-hour road trip down and a 10-hour road trip up, or
Mhm.
maybe, and this is not unheard of because I believe Tony Khan has fronted expenses for JR to stay in Florida, paid for his accommodation to stay in Florida as well. They might just put talent up in Florida to to then just live in Florida for the next few weeks while they get past this. But there is a lockdown, which means they might not have access to the facility. So that's
Yeah,
a big factor as well. And then on top of this here, they don't have their Georgia facility with QT Marshall, because QT Marshall was also precautioned to stay at home because he also had an interaction with an individual with coronavirus confirmation. And he usually has his wrestling school in Dynamite with him. He usually brings his wrestling school from every week, and you usually ever see a boisterous sound in the stands. That's actually his wrestling school most of the time. But they were told to hold back along with QT after his confirmed interaction with a coronavirus individual.
yeah, absolutely.
So they don't even have their Georgia facility right now. So it's hard to say where they're going to emanate from for the next few weeks, because they may have to find a new home. Maybe they'll do Atlanta because Cody's from Atlanta, and so is some of the other guys. I mean, but it's hard to say. We don't know what's going to happen. If they're smart, if they're smart, what they do is they go in and they done what they've done the first time for the first few weeks and just block tape like about a month's worth of Dynamites. Just work solid for 4 days straight, block book a
Hmm.
bunch of Dynamites, and then just let people have like a bit of rest. Make sure your staff's okay.
Yeah.
But where they do it is well, it's hard to say where they're going to do it. I don't know.
A block taping around John Moxley not being there could be difficult. Maybe they should. What do you think about doing a interim champion storyline?
So an interim champion. So how do
Yeah,
you?
Cage declares himself the uh, AEW World Champion due to forfeit or something like that. Runs around like now he is the champion.
Give him a belt, give him something to show off, and then you
Well,
have the
not give him a belt. He brings his own belt.
what belt though?
I don't know. In kayfabe, no one at AEW gave him a belt. He brought his own and says, "I'm the champ now." He forfeited. He knew he couldn't beat me. Did you listen to Taz? He told you. He's been telling you for weeks that he couldn't beat me, that he's scared to get in the ring with me. He forfeited. I'm the champ now.
Very shades of FTR right there, or not a FTW belt right there. If you remember Taz's run with the FTW belt in ECW, he
I
he he introduced the FTW belt when Shane Douglas refused to face him for the world title, and as a result, he, if I remember correctly, introduced the FTW belt in ECW and declared himself the real world champion as well for the FTW belt. So
Yeah.
that could work. There is a wonderful homage there to Taz through that.
Yeah. I didn't think of that when I fantasy booked this, but great connection. Thank you for bringing this up. But yeah, if you do the bulk taping like you suggested for 6 weeks or something like that, you can't not have your world champion around for another 6 weeks,
True.
right? So you have to work around this in some way. I don't know if it's too soon for Cage to be the champion in AEW, even if it's a fake championship, but
I
that
kind of
could
like
be.
where you're going with it, though. I like the idea of the bravado of it all because Taz, as a mouthpiece, is pure bravado, right?
That's
And
Gonzalez.
so I like that idea. Like you have because then you could have the AEW champion versus the real AEW World Champion, and then you have two people with two different belts holding up each other when they finally square off, and you almost have like that moment, a la John Cena, CM Punk with the two title belts as they stare each other down in the ring, and they both proclaiming to be the champion, and then you have that match at All Out.
I'm kind of a fantasy book now. This shot in my head when Moxley returns for the first time and he confronts Cage. Cage has his own belt over the shoulder. Mox just looks at him, and goes like, "WTF is this piece of trash on your shoulder?" Cage is like, "I'm the world champion. That's my belt." And Mox just decks him and pulls out his belt. "I'm the real world champion. Female dog, fight me."
Female dog fight. I think you're allowed to say that word on YouTube. I think that's a safe word, funny enough. But he does that swagger. You ever see that thing where he does like the shoulder thing? Like Moxley does that shoulder thing. Then he just kind of squares up to him before he does it, like that, just that shoulder roll, and then squares up to him.
Yeah, get this fake piece of trash out of my sight.
I kind of like the idea of them having, because there actually is two big platinums. They have one that, and then they have a spare one in case something happened to it. Because that existed before that existed before the Jericho thing. That's why Jericho still had a belt around his shoulder. Even when he had lost the original for a while, they had two belts pretty much christened just in case something happened to one of the belts, or is if Jericho was doing promotion with the belt elsewhere. They still had a belt on hand for the shows and stuff for if they need to take shots or anything of it, or pictures of it. So you could give him the other big platinum, because the other big platinum does exist. And so then you have like two big platinums in the ring, but whose big platinum's the real big platinum?
I like the idea better that he brings his own belt, that it's like the obviously fake belt. But you probably wouldn't be able to get one in time for the tapings.
No, and this is the thing, because like even Cody during his press conference promo even alluded to the fact that belt that he wields around still not even the last. It's not the belt.
Yeah,
it's just standing at the minute. Yeah. So
if Brian Cage should bring the Impact World Championship to AEW, like the belt, declare himself the world champion.
I mean, like, he has to go to Tasha Blanchard and take it off her. which is an interesting segue to the next story. Impact Wrestling have sadly, or if you're not a fan of Tasha Blanchard, happily have released Tasha Blanchard. From my understanding, this is coming off the back of conduct issues. She failed to provide or to cooperate with Impact when it came to Slammiversary to provide material for the event. Even though she wasn't able to make it there, Impact still wanted to work with her and give her the opportunity to provide material, keep herself pretty well established in the division. But this was after, apparently, that she was told she was going to have to drop the belt at Slammiversary, and she said no. So she was being a little bit uncooperative, and as a result has been released from Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
I know Dean earlier in the chat alluded to this, or I don't know if Dean's still there, but I know Dean alluded to that there and said that AEW will sign Tessa Blanchard. I don't think they will. The reason why
I said as much in the break when you had to fetch your delivery.
Yeah, I don't think they will, because there is an alluded to amount of harassment that she has been accused of doing in the past to other female talents, as well as some racism claims from other talent as well. Don't want to get into it too much. It's not really worthwhile talking about right now, but there is those accusations there. And then also the nature of being uncooperative with the company and as a whole. I don't think that's, especially in this very sensitive situation that we're in right now with the Speaking Out movement, I don't think it serves AEW well to hire someone who's uncooperative and also a bit of a hot target at the minute. It's not a commodity. She's not a commodity in my mind. It's worth.
It's not just Impact. When she worked the Mae Young Classic 2 years ago, last year. 2 years ago, I believe. People have been saying that she's hard to work with backstage. She's a challenge to have around.
Which then at that point really makes you ask yourself, like, talent is great, but talent is only great if it elevates other talent. And if the talent is going to be selfish, and if the talent is going to be uncooperative, especially as a world heavyweight champion, like your champion needs to be cooperating with you. Your champion needs to be able to deliver on what they promise. And if that champion is unreceptive, hard to work with, and is a target based on their extracurricular activities outside of the ring, it's not worth taking. It's not.
Yeah.
That's some of the new segments I have. Do you have anything on your end you'd like to talk about?
A little bit, maybe. Great American Bash. Have you heard about that?
Whew, that was take us through that.
So, you might have heard that AEW will be hosting Fyter Fest next week and the week after that. And WWE like to put on a little counter programming there. Not the first time they've done that. So NXT will go with the Great American Bash theme. used to be a pay-per-view in WCW, and WWE picked it up after they bought the company. And I think the last Great American Bash was like in 2010, maybe.
There
I
was
remember. I remember the first they had, I believe it was Tori Wilson in a sexy Uncle Sam dress on the cover, and she wasn't even on the show, I believe. I digress. Story is counter-programming, and they choose an interesting name. Yes, it is the time of the year for the Great American Bash, but Cody, early in the year, tried to trademark the name, or at least acquire the trademark.
Bash at the Beach that he acquired, if I remember correctly.
I think he wanted to get Great American Bash as well. He wanted to get all the Dusty Rhodes trademarks.
I didn't know that. I knew he got Bash at the Beach, and I knew he got I don't think it was Fall Brawl, was it? Or he got someone else as well as Bash at the Beach. Yeah. I'll need to double check that, but I remember he did get I know he got Bash at the Beach, which led to a lot of legal hot water, but WWE threatening to sue, but nothing came off the back of it because they don't own the rights, so technically they're in their right to do it.
Right. And Cody's sister actually tweeted at WWE that they still own her mother money.
Yes, I remember reading that because of the use of the name where Cody played it differently, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I think WWE doesn't own any money because they acquired the rights when they bought WCW. Maybe just a little bit salty because on this week's NXT, when they announced the Great American Bash, they heavily used the image of Dustin Rhodes in the promo videos.
Of course it did. Cody has been really quite the gentleman with this here. He's took it in his stride. He says he has no animosity toward them. He says he has no legal claim over it, so he wasn't going to have. He can't do anything anyway. But he doesn't have any animosity toward them, and that he says he's too busy focusing on making a really fun, a really heavily violent, and a great product on their end. So he done a great spin where it's like, yeah, they're doing that, and I know that. Go for it. I'm too busy doing this amazing thing over here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's a tale of two roads at that point because you have I
read that joke somewhere today and I just shook my head. How dare you?
I just say it's a tale of two roads. That's all I'm saying. Is there anything else you'd like to cover, sir?
Do you want to talk about Charlotte Flair for a hot minute?
What was it? Sorry?
Do you want to talk about Charlotte Flair for a hot minute?
Sure, go lay it on me. So
Charlotte Flair was written off TV on Monday Night Raw with an injury, and she does need surgery. People have suspected she might want to get married while she's taking some time off. But we didn't know how long it could be. Some people said maybe SummerSlam, others said Royal Rumble. Charlotte Flair has since then spoken out. She will be back in a few weeks, and WWE will keep her in the fans' mind. But kind of that gets us thinking about the state of the WWE Women's Division, or divisions rather. We've been talking about the AEW Women's Division and how gutted it feels right now. Surely WWE have more people on the roster, but the last 4 or 5 years they built their entire division. It feels like around 3 women. Charlotte Flair, reluctantly around Becky Lynch, and of course big scary MMA woman Ronda Rousey, and all of them aren't on TV right now. And at least 2 of them won't be for probably a long time. Possibly never again. And that's kind of a problem, especially if you look at the Raw Women's Division right now. because Raw Women's Division now has a Charlotte-sized hole in it. Because yeah, you have Asuka as the champion and you have Nia Jax as the contender now. But if you look at the list of female talent on the show, there's no one who could contest for no one who could challenge the belt credibly.
And the problem is that the one person with the credentials and acumen and history that could, Vince has no interest in.
That's right. Because you want to talk about stars who WWE gave up on. And this one is a crime. Because a minute ago I mentioned the scary MMA lady. Yeah, WWE has two of them. And the other one's even scarier. Shayna Baszler is scary.
Shayna Baszler is terrifying. They actually were building up for a four Horseman women's angle with Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha versus the four Horsemen of the MMA, which was like Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, and I can't remember the other two because for the life of me, they've not been really that hot or that big. But they elevated Shayna Baszler off the yellow brand into Raw, and that came off. That came out just out of the. I want to say it was off Royal Rumble, and carried into Money in the Bank. I think the last time we actually saw Miss Baszler was Money in the Bank, and yeah, like she had a devastating chokehold on the women's title on NXT. One of the best women's champions in NXT dethroned Asuka to become the women's NXT champion, and just run roughshod over the division in NXT for the longest while. There was a slight hiccup where Kairi Sane took the belt off her for maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, but then she shortly got the belt back after, and then just reestablished her chokehold on the actual division. Wonderful, wonderful run in NXT. Real scary lady. Really, really just a devastating force that looked like was never going to give that belt up. I thought we had another Asuka reign too. She gets.
Do you think Vince gave up on her because she's not a blonde model-looking type of woman?
This is my theory, is that Shayna Baszler looks authentic, and the look authentic in the fighting world is to not look pretty.
Yeah, I mean, she looks like she could beat anyone. Like it would be credible if you knocked out anybody, right? And that's great for wrestling. That's really great. You need this.
Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to seem like I'm coming off and calling her ugly, because that's not what I'm getting at. I'm sure when she is suited for the occasion, she probably looks lovely. I've just never seen her dressed up, because you don't get dressed up like that for an MMA match or a wrestling match.
She looks like a proper fighter when she's fighting. That's the point.
Yeah, but when she's in the ring, she looks the real deal. She looks authentic. She looks like she will rip your arm off. I could see her feasibly in a match in the male division challenging for like, it's almost like the return of China, like in that sort of that gravitas. It looks like a female wrestler who could challenge for a male title and handedly win.
Yeah, I'm not big into intergender wrestling, but yeah, I agree with you. It wouldn't get criticized for not being credible.
Yeah,
because she looks like she can kick your teeth in.
Yeah,
no problem. Yeah.
And what you said about that there is that she's not a Vince creation. She's not the blonde bombshell or the pretty girl who also just happens to know how to fight. She is a down and dirty, scary lady who will absolutely rip your arms off. And Vince doesn't like that. It's not his thing. I mean, Vince for the longest time had bra and panty matches, thinking it was the height of women's wrestling, for God's sake. You know, and when Shayna Baszler comes along, that doesn't fit into his mold. Like, there was an old thing backstage that you kind of reminded me about, is that backstage for the longest while, it was like, Vince, if you wanted to get ahead in Vince, if you wanted to get pushed by Vince, you got a boob job and you dyed your hair blonde.
That's kind of what that was like going on until like 3 or 4 years ago, because Charlotte, I mean, I don't know if that was the explicit reason, but she got an operation done. I think she had wrestling in mind when she got them. I don't know that. That's pure speculation on my part. I want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it still kind of speaks to this culture that's been there and maybe still is in certain parts of the management.
Yeah, and like it's not going to do her any disservice. It's going to get her over with some of the more dinosaurs in the back office. In my opinion of is that if you want bigger boobs, fucking go for it. It's your body. You make your decision. You be happy with you. Whatever makes you happy, you fucking do that, right? You do it.
Yeah.
No skin off my nose. But there is the mentality and the belief that you do this backstage with some of the older EVPs and stagehands that will get you over with them because they are so intrinsically locked into that state of mind and thinking. Not my thing, though. Not my thing.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the not pushing new talents a little bit more?
Well, yeah, they've also talked about not pushing new talent in Raw as well. There's real fears that the likes of Cedric Alexander is now going to go into the background again. Alexander Black's going to go into the background again. Buddy Murphy could go into the background again. Like all these talents that were Heyman pushes, and we talked about this last week, are probably not going to see any sort of real development. And apparently, there's a report that's came out that Raw no longer wants to build new talent. They want to rely on talent that they've already established. No, the problem that there is though, their biggest talent is nowhere near the building for good reasons.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, I don't even understand this. Like, that's not a future-proof approach to running this sort of business. Like, how can you not build new talent, right? Because on the other hand, they can't just if they run out of guys, they can't just bring the indie guys in, right? And be credible challengers. Like the Raw audience, the for the greater part, they're not into the indie wrestling thing, and Vince isn't. So if you bring in 5 years indie wrestler X who's really hot right now. Could you present him for challenging for a world title? No, you have to build those people, especially on the biggest promotion, right?
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head there, because you know what Raw's and you know what WWE's predominant demographic is?
Old people.
49 plus. 49 plus is their prominent demographic. Their ratings heavily come from people who watch terrestrial TV as a habit. It's not people like yourself or myself who are younger. It's not the money demo, which is it's called in the industry. It's the money demo. The people who are familiar with rising trends, willing to part with money for the actual gear, for the merch and stuff, and who actually are high end revenue ad sales for major networks. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Like you said, they don't know Joe Indy, because Joe Indy's too busy tearing it up, and myself and yourself are going to see Joe Indy in our local shows. But, Jim Bob Joey, who's, 55, just got home and sticks on Raw because he's having his dinner that night, he's not going to see Joey Indy, he doesn't know who that is. And so, like you said, if you don't build that star, and then when suddenly, there's injuries that happen, because injuries happen quite a lot in WWE, bear in mind. Injuries happen. The stars are now retiring. You don't have that. Like, you can't call the Undertaker back every damn week. What do you do?
I heard, that's not my joke. I heard this from someone else. But in 10 years, they won't have any talent they can put on the Saudi shows.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so painful because it's true.
Yeah, it is.
That's so painful because it's true. Jeez. Jesus. Oof. Big oof there. Big oof. No thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Should we talk about our experiences with WWE before we...
Oh, Boobala, we're in time right now. We're in time. We wanted to do 2 hours, and we did that.
Okay. Well, when we catch up next week, guys, we'll try and build a best segment next week where we talk about our... You can already kind of tell our experiences and our frustrations with WWE. We'll hopefully get a segment next week where we can talk about that there and break it down for you and give us... maybe me and Freed give you a bit of insight of how we started as wrestling fans and how our relationship with WWE has evolved over the last... I don't know for you, but the last 20 plus years. But we're probably going to end the stream and end the podcast now. Again, guys, if you have enjoyed the podcast, this is mainly for our YouTube friends out there. Don't forget the like button on the player or on the video. Why don't you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, that way you don't miss it, the podcast as it goes live. On top of that, we also chopping segments up and put some other content throughout the week as well. So, if these podcasts are a bit too long for you, well, we try and chop up the best parts and put them on there, little bits and bobs for you as well. For the actual pod, if you're not really wanting to watch it live, or you can't, the video format's too if the video format's too much for you. We have offline versions as well. You can get us on a multitude of podcast feeds. If Free, you could do me the favor and drop a bit of knowledge in us. Where can they find us on podcast feeds?
Putting me on the spot there, like nowhere. You can find us on Deezer. You can find us on iHeartRadio. You can find us on Stitcher. You can hopefully find us on Google Podcasts. We've submitted it last week. Don't know if we've been approved by now. We haven't been approved yesterday. So let's hope for the best. And soon more to come, hopefully.
Awesome, guys. So we're getting out there. We're getting out there. We'll be increasing our. We'll be increasing our range as it goes along, guys. So obviously we want to try and provide the podcast as much formats as possible. So just keep an eye on it out there. And as we get more formats out there, we will let you know. But again, if you've enjoyed the podcast itself on the YouTube side of things, guys, we would appreciate any likes on the video, as well as if you want to hit the subscribe button, notifications on so you don't miss out on the actual podcast as it's live. If you want to find myself, you can always find myself over Twitter at OdenPVG or on Twitch at twitch.tv/itspvg. You can see me like 5 times a week live if you haven't heard enough of my stupid voice and my stupid face for a week, for the week. And then you can also catch Freed, that beautiful soul that he is, over on twitch.tv/Freed_1. He does a lot of speedrunning content, doing stuff like the Messenger and whatnot. Just bringing you a little bit of that Summer Games done quick in a Freed-like format. But anyway, guys, we gotta love yous and we gotta leave yous, and we'll hopefully hear yous and see yous on next week.
It's time to take out John.
It's time to take out me because I am trash. We'll see you next week, guys. Peace.